Thank you. All righty, folks. Sorry, just resizing a couple of things so I can see. According to Apple, the time is 4:03. I call this August 30th special meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. And as a public service reminder, these meetings are always open to the public. They're meetings of the Board of Selectmen to conduct the ongoing business of the board. If you would like to offer comment, there should be an opportunity on the agenda to do so. When commenting, please state your name and title if applicable. If the meeting is interrupted, which hopefully the weather will cooperate, due to disconnection, we'll do our best to resume no less than 30 minutes from the time of interruption. And for our first order of business, we have a number of minutes to approve, and I will entertain a motion to do so.
I would move that we approve July 27th special meeting, August 3rd special meeting, August 11th special meeting, and August 15th special meeting. Approve.
Second.
Thank you, Glenn. Any questions or discussion?
Nope.
All righty. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And we have correspondence. And I see her, Mary, you made it home. That was fast.
Yes, we're not too far away.
Fantastic. So we have a piece of correspondence in the folder from Mary Susan Williams about speeding at Macedonia Brook State Park. Mary, do you want to give us a sort of 30-second synopsis of your email that you sent?
Sure. It seems as though the speed limit is 25. The person who I have trouble with speeding claims that the speed limit is 25 in the park. When I drive my car, when I go in one direction, it says 25 miles an hour. When I drive back the other way, it says 20. There are no posted speed limits within the park or at either end. And if anyone tries to drive 25 miles in that park, they'll understand that it's way too fast, especially when you have children on bikes, people walking dogs, families walking together. It is a road, but it goes through a campground. And if you're walking along the side of the dirt road and you have a 4,000-pound truck come alongside you and doesn't give you a wide berth, it's frightening and dangerous. So I propose that we look into finding out what the actual speed limit is. I'm not sure how to do that. And I would happily pay for the purchase and installation of a 20-mile-an-hour sign on either end of the park so it's clear. That's it.
Thank you. I'm going to ask, I think I saw Rick on here. Yes. So Rick is our DPW foreman, and he's sort of our resident expert on all things roads and speed limit signs and how that all works. So Rick, can you give us sort of an overview of how it works as far as, state roads versus town roads and how we set speed limits and what we have as a town have the authority to do or not, etc., just so that we have a little framework.
Since we don't have our own traffic authority, the state sets the speed limits on all our roads so they can be enforced. And the state will not set a limit on dirt roads. So we don't have speed limit signs on dirt roads normally. I believe up in the park, the state used to put up some handmade wooden ones, but I don't think any of those are up there anymore.
No, they're not.
No. So whatever signs we did put up, they would not be enforceable by the state police. So.
One thing, I was given some information by Wayne Thorpe, who is the newest addition to the ranger station. He pulled up and I printed for me that it's state law is for speed limit, unless otherwise posted, the speed of any vehicle in state parks or forests shall not exceed 20 miles per hour.
I don't know if that would apply to the road, since the road is town and the or if that's just for roads within the park itself, so.
Mary,
Well,
do you
even-
have that statute handy? Just the number
Yeah.
is all we would need.
Oh, sure. Inclusive sections 23-4-1. This particular one. Okay, 23-4-2. B.
Okay, that's sounds like a regulation, but either way, we can certainly, we can take a look at that. But
So
Rick's the
if
expert
that
as
is,
far as I know.
yeah, if that
But-
is the state law, if that is in fact the state law, then it should be posted.
Right, but what Rick is saying is there are road, driveways and roads within state parks that are deep property, but ours, that road is actually town right of way, town property. So I don't know if that's inclusive because it goes through the state park. It's one of those many gray areas of everything, it seems. But we can certainly follow up and also I want to follow up with Deep on their little signs that they used to put up because I do remember those from years past. So we'll have to follow up on this for you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything more to facilitate?
I don't think so. Hopefully by our next regular meeting, we'll have more information and, whether it's, seeing what Deep says as far as roads that go through or, how it relates to that statute / regulation. And then, some sort of recommendation that we might make.
Okay,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you. We are at public comment and I have a very small screen, but if anybody puts their electronic hand up or turns their video on or just gives a holler who might want to make public comment. So far, I don't see any.
I just, I don't know, maybe Rick, I thought I remembered a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit on Cobble Lane when I was a kid. But that's going back a few years.
Like 5 years ago.
5 years.
I don't remember if there's one on the paved portion of it. And then that being such a short road, or you would think it would be the same all the way through, but like I said, anytime we've asked that the agency at the state to set speed limits for us, they didn't want to do them on dirt roads. So. But if that statute is for every road, then we'll
Lived
Well,
in-
That statute is for state parks or forests. I don't
Yeah.
think Cobble Road is a state,
Right.
no, it isn't.
No,
so that's a different animal.
Alrighty. And I don't see any public comment, so we're gonna keep moving along to number 4, tax refunds. I don't see any in the folder. I assume it's a little early in the year for that. Moving along to the treasurer's report. Did I see Barbara on? Yes. Barbara, I don't know if you wanted to share your screen.
No, actually, I don't have a report prepared. I apologize.
That's okay. You know that you have audit and 10,000 other things and you're short one person. Thanks. Under new business, 6.1, can affordable housing request for a town meeting for the purpose of acquisition of a small parcel of unused town land. And it's really dovetails into 6.2. So we have the letter from oh, I thought that letter was in here. Might not be. The letter from a couple of months ago from Can Affordable Housing Board Chair Justin Potter, and I think I saw him.
It's under 7.1, Jean.
Oh, thank you. So we have that letter requesting telling us about the work that they've done and requesting that it go to a town meeting. And under Connecticut General Statutes 8-24, for any kind of any proposal of, I think it's improvement or change of town property, has to be referred out to planning and zoning for a report. And because the letter came to the Board of Selectmen, we just need to make a motion to send that out to planning and zoning, which I will make if you all are ready to do that.
Yes.
I'll second it.
Alrighty, so my motion is pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 8-24, the Board of Selectmen will refer the proposal to planning and zoning for a report. That was Rufus on the second. I will make sure that that gets in an email tonight to Ty and Matt Winter so that they can walk through that at their next meeting. And this, I think I've said this before, but not only am I, and I think the whole board is very grateful to Kent Affordable Housing. When I look at what else is going on in our region, I'm very grateful for Kent Affordable Housing because, their towns are doing sort of different things, but I feel like we're sort of the rock stars of affordable housing, and it's largely due to you all at Kent Affordable Housing. And we talk about the plan of conservation and development, all these plans that we're required to do by statute, the POCD, the municipal affordable housing plan, all these different plans, but we tend to do them, check the box, or, we're truly engaged, but they tend to then go on the shelf. And this is putting the goals that are in the POCD, that are in this municipal affordable housing plan, taking those goals and really bringing them to fruition. So it's great to see that Kent Affordable Housing, is really taking the bull by the horns to improve, our options in town and
So
think out of the box about it.
I have a quick question for Justin. I think this is a drone shot that you included, which is pretty cool. But what is the red line within the green area? Is that two different lots?
Yes, that's correct. And first, and thank you very much, Jean, for the kind words and for the overall the town's support of affordable housing and the mission. And it is indeed true that we're going to try to avoid having that housing plan going on the shelf and forgotten about. So, and this is the first big step towards those goals that are laid forth in the plan. So, Rufus, indeed, that is the line between two of the town lots. I think one is referred to as the transfer station lot, and I forget what the other one is. So that's part of the reason why the survey needs to be made. What we came up with was a rather ugly looking lot. So it's gonna require a bunch of language just regarding how this new lot's gonna be carved out of there. So
Very good.
So something else that we are going to need to do is begin drafting the conditional agreement. And we've reached out to Terry Dalton here in town to see if she'd be willing to do that, and she is. Now she is going to need to get in touch with the town attorney regarding that. Is that still Mike Zizka?
No, that's planning and zoning. The town council is Randy DeBella out of Kramer and Anderson. I'm pretty sure Attorney Dalton knows where to find him.
Okay, great. So I'll get going on that. Any other questions on this?
So Justin, I got a question. So
Yeah.
I was at DPW over there. I was at the at the garages, and I was trying to figure out where this property goes. And just to reiterate, this property will not impinge on on Rick Osborne's operations over there at
No, that is certainly the objective, and Rick's welcome to chime in there. We sat down with him and came up with a sketch map to avoid taking over his salt shed and the Quonset hut there. So we are avoiding that. That is the objective. So
okay. That's a very worthy objective. So there's not a whole lot of space down there, and I would hate to see Rick lose any space. Same with Jared and Park and Rec. I mean, they have plans for the commons area over there. There's some parking over there. They may need some extra parking at some point. How is Jared with all this? I know you've met with him, but can you talk about that?
Yeah, so the portion that we carved out there, so I'll admit we had our eye on where that dirt pile was, but but he wants that parking for for the parks there, and that area that is left there should accommodate about 40 spaces. And so in addition to that, there's the Grand Boulevard heading into South Common that could, if 40 spaces there isn't sufficient, there's that area you're going to South Common that perhaps could accommodate additional parking spaces. And for overflow situations like I remember the Easter egg hunt this spring, the field, the area next to the fire department works as well. So yeah, so Jared, Rick, and I have sort of sketched that all out, and this is the odd lot we came up with.
Okay.
So and even given the configuration of it, the engineer thinks that we could fit at least 10 to 12 units there at a density similar to the existing South Common units, which is a meaningful number. It's only, we have over 40 folks on our waiting list. But it'll put a meaningful dent in that. So,
okay. So you're looking for a scheduled town meeting sometime in September, but we just referred this to P&Z. So what's the time frame here? I mean, how long of a turnaround do we expect P&Z to have?
So
yeah, Justin, if we can just ask that out to Ty.
Yeah, the P&Z meeting is September 14th, so we'll have that in front of them then and have the decision to you the next day.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Great.
So as far as the actual date, would that get scheduled at a subsequent Board of Selectmen meeting, or?
I mean, we want to pull, it's dependent on the report from planning and zoning, but I don't expect any surprises there. So if we're feeling ambitious, we can, talk about setting a date, or we're going to need a special meeting in the next 2 weeks. So we can set a meeting in the next 2 weeks. I mean, we can put it on a future agenda in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Yeah, as long as we get it on your next special meeting, that should work for us. We still need to, Gary Hawk still needs to get back to us with the final survey, and we need to get going with Terry on the conditional agreement. So as long as we're on the next one, that should work in terms of setting the actual date. So, but hopefully that will be late September, early October-ish.
Yeah, and I think us all working in parallel paths with you all doing those 2 tasks, and planning and zoning getting their report, and then by maybe the end of next week, beginning of the following week, because we're backing up to a holiday weekend, we could do a special meeting and set the date then when we have a little bit more of those. How long do you think the survey and any thoughts about that agreement will take?
Fingers crossed that the final touches of the survey are getting put on right now. And then as far as the conditional agreement, I assume it'd be a few weeks to get that done. So I see the next planning and zoning meeting is on September 14th.
Yep.
That.
So maybe that'll be our goal to I think we should definitely wait until either the end of next week or the beginning of the following week. Just to see where you are, because if it turns out the agreement is going to take much longer, then we may have to push it out a little bit, a couple of weeks. And I'd rather not, set a date and then move the date and set the date, move the date kind of thing.
Of course.
Great.
Jocelyn, do you do any input here?
Yeah, thanks for coming out, Jocelyn.
Hi, no problem. No, I think it sounds like you're on the right path. I mean, technically, the referral statute doesn't require you wait for planning and zoning report necessarily. But it's sounds like you have a good timeline that you're working towards in any case.
Great. And are we still the rock stars of the COG when it comes to affordable housing?
So
I think the rock stars. Yeah, I mean,
Jocelyn is being very modest about Salisbury's work and what's in their pipeline. So
yeah, well, I was telling Justin the other day, the town of Salisbury does have this rather large parcel in the middle of town that it acquired some years ago, that could accommodate up to potentially 64 units of affordable housing. But no, you guys Kent Affordable Housing is definitely a rock star organization, for sure. No question.
That's
and the town of
great
Kent
to hear.
too, of course. Couldn't do it without the support of the town of Kent. So,
well, I know I have an idea of what the lift is that you all have to do to make all of this happen, and we couldn't do it without you. Truly, we could not do all of this without you all. So very much appreciated. So I think we're still in the middle of a motion to refer out the proposal to planning and zoning for a report. So barring any other questions, I will take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you. So that handled 6.1 and 6.2. 6.3.
I think it's 7, Gene.
I'm sorry.
I think it's 7. Right, 7.1.
7.1, 7.2. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Yes. My numbering is off because of my notes that I create. So discussion and possible action regarding additional design work for Streetscape 2 plans in response to public comments following public informational meeting. So I apologize, this is not in the folder, but if we want to, I'd like to discuss it because it's on the agenda and I think it's worthwhile to discuss. I'm going to go on screen share. Hopefully I can find everything that I need to find. Give me 1 second. I think I can fit everything in one screen because we need to look at a map and let's see here. Where is know that the map is here somewhere. Let's see. Oh, there it is. Okay, so if we can get these to be in the same screen so I don't have to move too much around. It'll be worth the couple of seconds that it took me to get this all reconnoitered. I promise. Okay. Finally. Hopefully I picked the right one. Are you all seeing a map on the left in PowerPoint, and then a memo from SLR on the right, hopefully.
Yes.
Fantastic. So we had 2 public informational sessions over the spring and into the summer, one with Lane Street property owners, and then one widened out to all the abutters for the whole phase 2 part of the project. And we had a lot of feedback during those 2 meetings. SLR ran those meetings. They did all the note taking. And then there was a public comment period. And from those 2 things, the notes that were taken and the feedback, SLR then met with me and we went through everything. And out of that came what I'd like to have the board consider as some extra work that's not part of the current SLR contract. So what this is a little bit outside of what is in their scope of work. So one of the main things that came out of this was that the public really is desiring a sort of a site walk of the Maple Street and the Lane Street, so that SLR and the townspeople can walk around and really look at some of the questions that they have. There's a number of questions about drainage on Lane Street. There's some questions about right-of-way on Lane Street. And then there's concerns about just the sidewalk going in on Maple Street. And could it, some residents were wanting to have the sidewalk be on the other side of the street on Maple Street. And so we really agreed that it made sense to schedule basically a site walk. So we would start with Lane Street. Anybody can come. It would be sort of outdoor walking around kind of discussion, and SLR would be able to go over that feedback from the public and talk about drainage, talk about right-of-way, and any other comments that folks have, and then go and do the same, have a 15-minute break for people to get over to Maple Street and do the same thing over on Maple Street. The feedback also from different sections of the project made it clear that I feel like we need to spend a little bit of money to create have SLR create some renderings, which are outside of the scope of the contract, so that people can see what the sidewalk is going to look like in their specific neighborhood. As you look down Maple Street towards Maple Street Extension, to really give the visual impact, because it's hard to see. We've all lived, me for 20 something years, Rufus for a few more, with Maple Street as it is, and there's no sidewalk there. Everybody's used to that, and it's hard to envision what that's going to look like, how that will impact and improve that swath along there. So we also they've given us a proposal to add in 4 photo simulation renderings, which is that number 8.4 in their proposal. Other ones are, I'm sorry, the 8.2. So the reason why I have this map up here, so just to orient everybody, this is Kent Greenhouse. Everybody see my cursor moving around?
Yes.
This is South Commons Boulevard. And right here is where number 8.2 is talking about. So we all know that there's been the farmers market moving down to the Kent Land Trust property has really been a game changer. Every month when I go to the chamber meetings, everybody is very excited about the feedback and the traffic and how many more people it's bringing to town. And it occurred to me that where that little spot right now is just this sort of unremarkable a little bit woodsy. You can see in the, make it a little bit further in here. So you can see in the satellite footage image that there's trees and some scrub brush, and you've got a sidewalk that comes all the way down here and then just terminates. So obviously there's nothing on the other side. So there was discussion, and I had suggested, would it be possible? We know that the DOT wouldn't, they wouldn't just make a, you know, obviously we can't continue the sidewalk and wouldn't need to continue the sidewalk down there. But the thought about turning this almost into like a little pocket park where there would be a landing and a ADA compliant ramp that goes on to that, you know, continues. There would also be a crosswalk here so that this continues and the pedestrian traffic is encouraged to continue. And then we work to create some small opening that creates a gateway so that people can walk from town down to activities and events that are happening on that, in those fields, which we have the concerts, we have the farmers market. So that was another consideration. And so that's included in here under that 8.2. And the crossing, the crosswalk, let me see if I can find it, hang on. There's going to be a crosswalk at Swift's Lane at Maple Street. That's not it. There's everyone I click on is just not the one that I'm looking for. But there will be a crosswalk there. And I asked if we could change out that, basically it's a static sign, just a, you know, a state road sign, and swap that out for what is called what are they called? An RRFB, a rectangular rapid flashing beacon. So that crosswalk is going to, you know, that's going to be a main crosswalk for folks who are going to and from the senior center, and for the residents of Templeton Farms, and for people walking, hopefully walking to Kent Commons Park. I think all of the crosswalks should have had that, but that's another story for another day. But I think it's important, especially because of the relative location to the very heavily trafficked four-way intersection at the monument. It's just a very sort of condensed spot. And I think it's important to have that additional safety measure for pedestrians so that when somebody wants to cross, they hit the button, and when it's time for them, when they can cross, then those beacons will flash, and it will be very evident to vehicles coming and going in that one spot. So that was another addition that we're asking them to draw into the design, and then obviously they have to get it all approved and everything. So those were the four, basically the four elements. I'm gonna, let's see, let's just make this full size. And here's the cost. Oops, let me get rid of that. So the total cost to add all of that into, so to do the meeting and add in, let's look at them both at the same time here. There we go. So the field meeting, the creating a gateway into that land trust land, the RRFB, and the renderings, the total cost beyond the what SLR's contract is would be $14,595. So if we want to, I didn't think Mike Doherty from SLR really needed to be here, but if we'd like him or Mark Mancini, I think he's actually the primary on this phase 2. We can have them come and talk about this. It seems fairly straightforward to me. And this would be added to the contract, and it would come out of the pot of money that we're looking at for the overall project.
I think those items are all reasonable, and as is the expense, extra expense. So I would make a motion to add those 4 items of extra work to the second phase of this streetscape.
Can we approve the design proposal, maybe, from SLR? Because it's all here.
Minus maybe your little red squiggly line.
Yeah, I took him out. So it would be to accept the
Except,
design proposal.
right.
I'll second that. So
can I say, as a denizen of Lane Street, who talks to my neighbors quite a bit, to have a site walk would be, I think, very beneficial for a lot of people. So I think people would be interested in that. And as someone who's gone to the farmer's market there, both driving in my car and walking, I've done that once or twice. That is a very good deal there. Just a little, what do you call it, Gene? A little mini,
pocket park.
little pocket park, whatever
And
that
of
is.
the moment term these days.
It would be really easier to walk from the center of town to the farmers market and those concerts. So I think that's a good.
Yeah, and I think as as more starts happening there, people are going to want to be walking there, and this is the perfect time to be able to spend a little bit of money to make that a nice transition, because if people are going to walk there, they're going to walk there anyway, and then it becomes a safety hazard and a trip hazard. I've walked over there during the fairs in previous years, and it's brambly and uneven, and it doesn't, obviously provide equitable access out to that area. Alrighty. Any other questions, Glenn and Rufus? Alrighty. We will see a hand up. Hang on. Donna, you had your hand up. Sorry, I'm looking in one place and I saw your face. There you go.
I'm just curious that the $14,595 is just for the design work. You don't have a cost for the additional work itself. Or did they give you an estimate for that?
They did not, because they would have to draw it up first.
Okay, so that's just so that everybody understands. It's $15,000 just for the design work, but you don't know what that additional cost will be to the total project.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
We will try your minds and take a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Alrighty, we'll get that over to SLR. Let me just shuffle some deck chairs here. On to old business, possible action to accept the gift of the Albin property. So this is, this came to us, I believe, last month. And again, this is a small, very small parcel of land. I did get a very simple, let me find it. Letter from the fire department. Give me 1 second. That says, "Dear Selectmen, it was very thoughtful and insightful of our good friend, longtime Kent resident and businessman Lloyd Albin to offer the small parcel of land locally known as Albin's bypass to the town of Kent as a gift. It is of crucial importance as the small piece of property connects Route 341 West, Cedar Mountain Road with Kenmont Road, and ease of access by emergency vehicles through the property is critical to helping maintain public safety. On behalf of the membership, the fire department encourages wholeheartedly supports the town's acceptance of this gift. Sincerely, Carly Rakovansky, Secretary, John Russell, President, Alan Govel, Chief, Kent Volunteer Fire Department. And so that that is obviously in support of our acceptance. And if are we ready to make a motion? I'll entertain a motion. Ty, you got your hand up. Go for it.
Just as a heads up, that same 824 statute refers to acquisition of land as well. So you might want to refer that to planning and zoning on the 14th.
All right, I will change my motion. Can I put in the same letter? I'll do 2 letters. So I'll make a motion.
Motion should remain the same, to accept the gift with gratitude of tax lot 1623-6.
And so, Ty, you had said before that those 2 things can happen concurrently. We don't have to wait for, I'm sorry, Jocelyn, I think mentioned that. We don't have to.
Jocelyn said that. So you have to, it says you should not do anything. You shall refer to the Planning and Zoning Commission when you acquire land. If you do go forward with it, you need, and even if the commission actually sends a negative report, you still could go forward with the purchase, but you have to have a 2/3 vote for approval. So
okay,
I really think that the right thing to do would be to refer it to planning and zoning, just to be covered.
Okay, and I'm gonna take that recommendation just so that we're covered. If Rufus and Glenn, you're in agreement with that, just procedurally, so that the property's not going to go anywhere. And I think
I agree. I'm in favor of purchasing this, or acquiring this, but yeah, let's go to P&Z. I want to do the right.
Accepting it.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 824, the Board of Selectmen refer this transfer of the Lloyd Albin property proposal to Planning and Zoning for a report.
Second.
Fantastico. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is the draft hiring policy. So in the folder, we have a draft with some changes that Donna Hayes offered up for the board to help us move along with this, the sort of redo of this hiring policy that was lacking in a number of places.
I'll say this to Donna. Thank you for reading my little proposal, which was to say we need to post job descriptions for 2 weeks. So you added that in the text here, I believe.
Yep.
So that was good. I'll also say this, that Donna writes, thank you for reviewing my recommendations, but before you move forward, I believe you could consider eliminating the employee policy and procedure manual as it exists today. And one of the reasons for that was the fact that we as a board approved a position without a job description. That was back, I must say, at the special Board of Selectmen meeting on March 13th. I personally was against that that vote on that position for a couple of reasons. But in particular, I said at that meeting that we did not have a job description. And that was part of the policy and procedure manual. So I voted in the negative on that day, and it passed. So I'll say this, that I don't think that we need to discard the manual. We do need to update it, but we as a board need to adhere to its rules. And I think I think that's very clear in what is written here. So, so I don't know what you want to do with this. I personally like the 2 weeks posting. I wrote that a while ago. We could include that or not. I mean, I know, there will be a new Board of Selectmen coming up in a few months. And I don't know what you two feel about this, but that's my 2 cents. Do you want to move on this or do you want to wait? Because we have been waiting on this.
Yeah, I would like another couple, even if we move it to the special meeting in a couple weeks, just because I just came back from vacation and still digging out from my email and didn't really have a lot of time to digest this. So I'd like another couple of weeks to just take a look at it.
Because we have been saying that for quite some time now. And I want to make sure that if we as a board want to do this soon, that we should. But because this has been on our agenda for many moons.
Time.
Yeah.
We've had the memo since July 23rd.
Yep.
So it's, 6 weeks.
What do you think, Rufus?
I like the changes. I think, it's, there may be a situation somewhere that we haven't imagined yet where, a hiring has to happen sooner than 2 weeks, but that would be the only exception. I mean, for the most part, it's there to try to equalize the opportunity for people who are interested. So,
Well, if we can just give me another to the special meeting that is going to be coming up in another week and a half, I would be grateful for that, so I can catch up a little bit.
Okay, so this will go to a special meeting. It'll
Yep.
be on there, and we will make a decision on this.
Yes.
We'll make a decision. Okay, just checking.
hopefully.
Just checking.
Let's see. Alrighty. So 8.3, did I get that right? Did I catch up with my numbering?
8.3 is correct. Yes.
Alrighty, I'm gonna go on. Did I pull this up in PDF? Of course not. Hang on, and I will pull it up. Do y'all need to see it on screen share, or are you good? The tax abatement ordinance. There was we were waiting on the final language from town council on the retroactive language, and it's about as simple as you can get. In that in section 6.
You might need to screen share that, Jean. That didn't get put in the folder. I didn't have that.
Oh, I put it in there sometime late morning after I got back from that thing and sharing.
3:18 this
Share it.
afternoon.
Hang on one second. All right, there we go. Okay. So, can you all read that? You want me to make it bigger?
Oh, bigger, please.
Okay.
My eyes are not that good anymore. Despite the glasses.
So here's page 2. Oops, there we go. So a new 1-sentence addition, and this was sparked out of the town auditor at that Board of Finance meeting, made a recommendation suggestion that it be retroactive, so that there would be one catch-up year on the increased amount.
The fact that we didn't increase things as it went along sort of refutes the attorney's thinking that the ordinance was for the maximum amount. That, I mean, nobody in town, fire department, nobody, previous boards had changed the $1,000 amount. So I think there's still a question out there, Gene, about whether or not this is the right way to go about it.
Not sure what you mean. So if this would be part of the new revised language. So going forward, it would just be one catch-up year. That's the only thing that this accomplishes.
Well, I mean, you're still going to a town meeting for this.
Oh, yeah. That's
All
what,
right.
yeah, that's what
Because
I'm hoping we'll make
The
a motion on
logic
tonight.
of Randy's argument was sort of defeated by the fact that the town didn't act before. So to make it retroactive, you know, it's a backwards way of doing it, but.
Well, I think that's why it's being suggested as retroactive. But we can take it out if you all want to take it out and just go straight and clean going forward. I mean, I know that it's time to send this to the town, to the voters.
Okay.
So how would you like this? Does the board feel that this should be left in? Should come out? You tell me.
If you make it retroactive, what are you talking about in dollar amounts?
Barbara, do you have that handy? Sorry to put you on the spot.
I'm sorry, what are you asking me for?
If what the financial implication is if we leave this language in here for it to be retroactive going back 1 year.
You mean into last fiscal year?
It would be for this fiscal year.
I budgeted more than enough to cover the $2,000 for however many people qualify for that.
Okay.
But
And
I don't know off the top of my head what that dollar amount is.
I don't know. Jen, are you on the call? Sorry, when I'm on screen share, I can't see everybody very effectively. Go. Debbie, I see Debbie's on. Deb, do you have a sense of what that number is?
To be honest, Jean, off the top of my head, I don't. I could have it by the time of the town meeting, but I don't have it right at in my hand.
It's not on a post-it. Yeah, I'm sorry for, I don't mean to put you on the spot. So that's as much of an answer as we can give you to your question, Rufus. And I think I saw Darlene, did you have your hand up? I lost sight of you. There you are. You're on mute, Dar.
Maybe I missed hearing it, but when Randy provided this advisory to just go back to the 22 grand list, what was in his advisory to only go back to the 22 and not go back to when this statute actually was effective? What did he write as the reasoning?
He wrote very little, and I apologize that I didn't get you that email. It was, this is the language, and that was it. There was nothing really further it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was an advisory. It was just an email exchange between the two of us, asking for the specific, what should we write? You know, what should we literally write for this retroactive piece?
Because ultimately, by accepting his advisory that the Board of Selectmen was last provided, is by not going retroactive all the way to 2019, it's contradicting what his advisory was. If you take the time to look at how he proposed that second advisory of his reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I would ask the Board of Selectmen to digest his advisory, because more or less, if you accept his advisory, then shouldn't you as a board be recognizing that this should go back to 2019?
Yes, but the fact that, I mean, you're right, but the fact that the town or the fire department, neither one acted on any of those ways, to me, sort of invalidates his advisory.
So
I mean, logic of it.
Well, I guess, and to be on record, we, the town, represented by Randy, Jean, Debbie, myself, in different numerous meetings over the years, when we sat with representatives of the fire department, we all discussed the fact, and this is when the statute had changed, that it was going to be based on an ordinance being adopted for the new dollar amount to be effective. We advised them of that. So when you say that now we have an advisory that kind of contradicts that an ordinance even has to be in place to give them the new dollar amount, but yet now we have to adopt an ordinance. So I guess we all went down the path feeling like the only way a new amount was going to be provided is an ordinance was going to be adopted. That's not what his advisory, his last advisory, says. It says to accept that the intent of our ordinance was to accept a grand amount of 1,000 when we first adopted it. So it's to be assumed that we accept the total larger amount of 2,000. There's nothing in there of his advisory that says none of this should be done unless an ordinance is adopted.
But then in between there, the tax collector went to the Board of Finance and said, I can't do this. It's, you know, she has certain authority.
This is after. I'm speaking to Randy's second legal opinion. His first was that statute quote trumps ordinance. We've moved away from that. The auditor requested something in writing. Randy did write something in writing, of which he said it's implied that the town's intent is to give the grandest amount allowed. So he's saying that the reason we gave $1,000 22 years ago was that the intent of the town was to support the largest amount that the fire department could receive. So if that logic is to be used, the largest intent by statute is the 1,500, the 2,000. So why would we not go retroactive back to 2019?
We can.
I don't know whether or not, I mean, in my mind, Darlene, I'm not sure one acceptance of a dollar amount shows intent to give the maximum.
I agree, and that's why I wrote you all that email asking the question of why the advisory stated as such. And I didn't hear back from anybody on the board to my email as far as that question. But that's the advisory you're accepting because you're not disputing it, you're accepting it. And then that supports the idea that he is now, our town council is putting forward that we only go back to 2022.
So I agree, there's a problem there, but, you know, in my mind, I'm not sure that the actions of the town or the fire department, it never occurred to either one to start moving up to maximum in 2019. So
Yes, it was brought, I want to say, Jean, you were in those meetings, Debbie was in those meetings, I was, other individuals were. Ed Mattson, I believe, was the first person, and I'm not going to be right to say first person, but I believe if you go back to minutes, Ed was on record as being requesting the 1,500.
so the fire department did bring that up
Yes.
as a department, or?
Yes.
No, not as a department.
Go ahead.
I don't know if he was speaking for the department or if he was in a conversation saying, yeah, we should do the 1,500. The fire department, it came up at the last fire department membership meeting, and they said they did not and were not interested in rendering any opinion or anything because this is a town ordinance, it's a town decision. They are perfectly happy to accept any of the, you know, gracious compensation that the town provides. So they, at the meeting, they were in agreement that they did not want to provide any sort of, we think you should do this, or we should think the town should do that.
Was that this past Monday's executive meeting? Because I watched that meeting, and
No,
that's
it
when
was,
but that's when they learned at the executive meeting that it was only going to be retroactive to 2022.
It was at the membership
Regular,
meeting
right.
of August.
Correct. But I guess it's still outstanding that they're now aware that it's only going to go back to 2022 because it was on record through a Board of Finance meeting that it was implied that yes, there's a possibility that this could go back to 2019.
So board members, what would you like to do? Would you like to change it to go back to, and I don't even, with the October 2019 tax list, or is it 2020 tax list? That I'm not sure of. Or do you want to take the whole thing out? What do we want to do?
Well, we should either go back to 2019 if you believe that the intent all along and was to do the maximum. I just don't believe that by accepting the maximum amount 20 some odd years ago, that was necessarily the intent.
I'd like to be on record. I'm not implying that the intent was for the town to do the maximum amount. What my comments are based on the way that the second advisory by town council is written. If you accept the way his suggested advisory is, then to support what his advisory is would imply that you would have to go back to the 2019 grand list. So I've been on record all along saying that this could be the town's decision all along, as far as it doesn't have to be 2000. It could be 50 because the statute reads up to. I support that the fire department on a personal level gets the 2000. But I'm not disputing that we have, but I think that because I don't know that that advisory has ever been even publicly shared for it to be discussed by Glenn, Rufus, and Jean. to understand what's driving this decision. And Jean, is it possible for you to provide me what was the question you asked of Randy when he gave that answer? I did try to ask for those emails before the meeting.
Yep, and I said I apologize that I didn't get to them. Let's see. Honestly, it's going to take me a while to find it because there's emails going back and forth with multiple topics, and I would just need a few minutes to find it. I'd rather not sit here and have you all watch me dig around in my inbox.
And I don't know whether-
Can I just say this, that we're referencing meetings that happened in 2019, 2020. That was before my time here. So, we're talking about intent.
Glenn, that was when the state changed the maximum amount.
I know.
So,
we're
you know,
referring
if you accept Randy's line of rationale, then you'd have to go back all the way to give it if you're saying that that's what you believe the intent was on part of the town.
So what we're saying is that this ordinance should not say 2022, but 2019. Is that what we're saying?
If you accept that new number 6.
Because, so just to give you a frame, Glenn, I think it was 2002 that the bill passed and it became a statute, that this tax abatement, and it was up to $1,000. And then you fast forward, it stayed the same, maybe there were some technical changes, stayed the same all the way to the 2019 legislative session when they increased it to 1,500. And then I think was it the 21 session, Darlene? They changed it again so that the max was 2,000. So there was a long time where there were no change in the amount, and then it was like 2 or 3 years they changed it twice. So that's what we're talking about, going back to the 19, which was when it went up to 1,500, and then I think it was 21, it went up to 2,000. So covering all of that. So covering for the 1920 at 1,500, and then the 21 or 22, I can't remember, up to the 2,000. So it'd be more catch up. And if we were to do that, I would want to see financially what that impact would be, because that's, now you're talking 19, 20, 22, 4 years.
Yeah, I would too.
Important. Yes.
So we're getting close, but I think we want to follow the line of logic completely or not.
Right. And, I don't think that, I think Randy wrote that as just the 2022. And I'm going to venture an assumption here, because the whole issue over the last 7-8 months was that the $2,000 piece, the current one that we had passed. And I would make an educated assumption that was why he just said the 22, because he wasn't even really thinking all the way back to 2019.
So you didn't ask him, because I know one of the specific questions I had proposed to the board individually was, does this mean that it would go back to the 2019? So he's not been asked that.
I'm still looking for the question that I asked him.
Okay.
There's also a side of me that where do we just close this loop on this discussion. We've been talking about this and talking about it and talking about it. You know, do we keep throwing the baby out with the bathwater? Are we really saying that this ordinance can't go to the taxpayers until we go back again and ask town council, why didn't he say 2019? Are we getting too hyper technical about this? Do we want to say we want to send this to the public, to a hearing, and then to a town meeting for discussion and approval or not, as it is presented, or do we not? Or do we continue to discuss this? Like,
Well, I mean, I just, you know, we're looking at sort of where it was over the last couple of years when we're the board, not in the past, but there is that. I mean, I'm all for giving the tax abatement to these volunteers.
Right.
They go above and beyond. Most people in town have no clue what these folks do. The time they give up, family parties they miss, etc. You know, it's
right.
And we should be really thankful for them. I just think we should, if we're going to do it, I had a hard time believing that by the town accepting the original $1,000 and then not making any movement to move it. And maybe Eddie did make a comment, but you know, 2020, 21, 22, nothing happened until it, you know, this last several months. So I think if we correct it, we should correct it and go back to 2019. That's my, you know.
Thoughts, Glenn?
So if we go back to 19, what are we doing here? Are we changing this ourselves right now?
We can change it to 2019.
This is consistent with what town attorney has said. I just want to be consistent.
Well, I think that does make consistent with his original hypothesis that the town intent was to give out the maximum. So that's an error on past boards that they didn't do that. If you agree that that was the intent.
How about we do this? So that we can get the full picture of what the cost is going to be going back to 2019, because I think we're all interested in understanding what that impact is. And I will also re-ask out the wider question to town council, and then we can address it at that special meeting in a couple of weeks. Because I'm getting the sense that we're not ready to pull the trigger on this yet. I truly wish we were, but if we're, I get the sense, hang on, Deb.
Yeah.
I get the sense that we're not, that there's still a couple of questions.
I mean, it sounds like we can't go with 2022. We've got to be consistent. And if we're going to be consistent, we have to know what that number is going back to other boards. And we need to know that number. So we need to do more homework again.
Okay.
Could I ask my question now?
Of course.
Part of this is the fire department in order to comply with this year's regulation, they were very careful. They went through and set up a whole new system of accountability. What system of accountability are you going to use when you go back to the 19 and 20 and 21 grand lists? Are you using the newest system, or are you going back to the old way? I just need, how we, since I'm the one who's going to do this, I just want to know what the accountability system is.
Yep, that's a good
We-
question.
We would have to, Debbie, to be fair, the fire department had their criteria. So
Right,
in
at the
those
time.
years, the criteria for those years that they used, you either made it or you didn't, and that would be that would be the list.
But in order to make this new criteria, when the new amount came in, they made new criteria. So I just am trying to be consistent with the way they do things. So that's just another little wrinkle.
Yep.
That I'm throwing out there.
It's a good wrinkle that you discovered. So that's another question for town council. I'm quite sure it's going to be that whatever their eligibility requirements were
For those
at the
years,
time.
that's what you'd have to go by.
Okay. So
But we'll ask it out.
And all that's on file somewhere. I mean, that hasn't disappeared, right? So we can
Right.
go to that. Okay.
I mean, they submitted the names every year. So-
And there is a time, the clock is ticking on this. We're talking about doing this for January taxes, but that means it all has to be done by October, November, so it can get to the escrow companies and everything. So you haven't got a whole lot of time to turn this around.
So Deb, can you get just send a spreadsheet or however, if it's a report out of the system, what it would be going back to 2019?
Sure. This gets really dicey. Some people have died along the way. Are we sending the money to the estate of? I mean, you're opening up a can of worms here, folks. Not that I'm trying to not let the
Would
fire
you,
department.
would you pay it to the estate now? If somebody passes away during the fiscal year that it's due, would you pay it to the estate?
The fiscal year that it's due.
Like if they pass away within the year, do you pay it to the estate?
It's on the property, so yes, the taxes are off the property. When we're talking about properties that have sold, we would have to find the people. This is not an easy project. Just, it's not impossible, but it's not an easy project. And I think at some point there should be a little caveat. Maybe we just write them a check, and that's what it would be, because they don't own the property anymore. So how are you going to reimburse them? And so anyway, those are just my thoughts.
Okay.
Thank you. I will stop talking.
We'll get those tasks. Ask questions out to town council, and Deb, you'll work on the other piece, and then we'll follow up at that special meeting.
Well, you kind of need to generate a list and then see, who might have passed, whose properties might have been sold, whether, da, 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 da.
Right.
Okay, just keep in mind the way the criteria has changed for this year. There will be people who will be getting the $1,500 for the 19, 20, and 21 list and go back to 1,000 on the 22 list. Just so you're aware of that. wrinkle it.
Okay.
Okay,
Thanks. Thanks, everybody, for sort of getting down in all this weeds. Next is 8.4.1 updated job description, the rec leader. I'm gonna say right out of the gate, I haven't had but 30 seconds to take a look at this, so I would I'd like to have a couple weeks to look at this.
Move it to next special meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jean, can I ask a question on the job description? If we're adding a new position and he's getting responsibility, or this particular position is taking responsibilities from the current director, shouldn't we simultaneously have a updated director's job description as well?
Yes. Like I said, I haven't read but 30 seconds, spent but 30 seconds. So
Right.
if that does need to be done, we'll have to work with Park and Rec to do that. Next is the Kent Town Center reimbursement. So this goes back to during construction for phase 1. Myself, Rick, the contractor, and Mike Doherty from SLR had we were doing a site walk. We had a quick site visit with what was at the time the chair of the board for the Kent Town Center. And we had a verbal discussion about what to do with their pavers, and it was in the plan to do protection on a couple of those trees that were remaining there. In the meanwhile, I guess they had a change in their leadership of the board. They went and did the work that's in this, the invoice or the letter to us for the $1,690.98. It's not, it's not worth it, in my opinion, to, go back to them and say, well, your previous board chair said that you were going to deal with the pavers yourself. And I think that we should pay this bill and move on. And so what had changed was in the original letter that came to a meeting a number of months ago was a couple of things they had done. So they had the actual price, and a couple of items were in a proposal. So because time had passed, we wanted to get the actual number from them. So I think the old number, what was the old number? Was 1614.77. And the actual is $1,690.98.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Sorry, I didn't hear you, Rufus.
No, I was just gonna say what the actual number was.
Yeah, $1,690.98. So I'll make just so we can get into a discussion, I'll make a motion that we reimburse the Kent Town Center $1,690.98 for their the work that they had done for the repair of their property.
So, Jean, so the pavers, did you have that in writing from the?
No.
It's just a verbal thing you had.
Yep. And so when we had that conversation, I think it was late August, early September, but then many months went by. I think we got, when was that? So we got this letter, the initial letter from Kent Town Center on December 15th. So a long time span passed. There was no reason for me to think that our conversation that we had was the conversation that we had, but they had a change in leadership in the meanwhile. I guess that there was some transition information that didn't get passed along. I'm not sure, but they ended up having to, you can see what they had done. And we didn't even discuss the any perennials lost. There was never, we didn't talk about vinyl edge bordering, nor the treatment for the root damage. And that tree, I believe, was getting treated, but in the plan. So now it's extra treated. And we asked them, where do you want the pavers? And we told them that the pavers wouldn't be removed by hand. They would be removed with an excavator. And where should we, what should we do with them? And we were instructed to put them in the parking space next to the, I think it was a dumpster, which that's what Mather did.
When things are verbal, it gets muddy, and I think for this amount, we just pay it.
Yep. Was definitely another lesson learned. And we had many conversations moving along the project during site walks where somebody from a property owner would come out and we would have a conversation with them, and that work, whatever the minor tweaking of something was, that would get done. But this was unforeseen. I did not know any of this was coming for months and months and months. Mather took out the pavers. The tree was getting treated. We didn't know anything until they sent us this reimbursement request. So unless y'all have any questions, shall we take a vote?
Dean, I don't see Barbara on the call anymore, but she might want your motion to include where you're taking the money from to pay this invoice.
Nice. You remember, what did my motion specifically say? So you know what, I'll rescind that motion. And whoever the second was, rescind it. And
I
we'll
rescind. Yep.
Okay. So we'll put a new one together. Are we in agreement that it should come out of the project
Yes.
fund? Okay.
Yes.
Alrighty, a motion to reimburse the Kent Town Center $1,690.98 out of the streetscape project funds for their submitted repair work.
Second.
Thank you, Rufus. Anything further? Thanks, Joyce, for that. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Moving on to Kent Cemetery Association update. So we have, thanks, I see Tammy is on the meeting. Thanks for coming. So we've been I've been meeting with the Cemetery Association, learning a lot about cemeteries, and another fascinating topic that I never thought would be as fascinating as it is. There was a lot of homework that we all did to get to this point. I went out and asked the COGs what they do for cemeteries, how they run them, and almost everyone was different. I think I sent you that spreadsheet. Then we had gotten to the point where it was time to put together some sort of ordinance. So that's with town council. Basically took Winchester's ordinance. There's some information in the statute that I had questions about for him, so asked those questions, but we have basically a draft. It's not ready. He hasn't finished his review of it, but we'll do that hopefully at the next special meeting, because the association is very motivated or very anxious to have this transition move forward. Would you say that's fair and accurate, Tammy?
Yes, very, very accurate.
Okay. So part of the ordinance is going to be creating a job description for a sexton and possibly an assistant or a deputy sexton. There's not much information, there's no nice tidy template that I've seen. So the Cemetery Association gave me a really extensive list of duties and tasks of the sexton, and basically the full-time job that Tammy and Bill Potter have been doing for the last 35-ish
30.
years, 30 years, 30, 35. I'll give you the extra 5.
Oh, thanks. Because we look that old.
No. So I'll, draft up a job description out of that. And, there's some wrinkles along the way that we need to make sure that we get figured out. But I think everything is doable. I'm very grateful for all the time that you all have spent, from the association with me, just helping us, sort of get to this point. So hopefully at that special meeting, we'll have a draft. And then that will need to go also to the taxpayers to vote on. And it's basically creating a cemetery committee. That's what the statute calls it. I thought it was a commission, but it's a committee, and obviously follows the statutory language. And then there's some sort of operational pieces and parts that I'm not sure belong in the ordinance, but rather likely belong in like a set of bylaws for the committee. And that was one of the questions out to town council. It just gets, pretty detailed in their Winchester's ordinance. So those, there's a couple of pieces to just flesh out.
So I think, Tammy, when you have all this free time, you and Bill should write a book about the cemeteries.
I have 4 books that I'm writing.
Oh my gosh.
The first one starts with my time with Gordon Casey. That's how far back they go. Yeah. We have our just so you know, Jean, we have our letter now ready to go.
Oh, great.
To the association membership, advising them that we will be giving up the Kent Cemetery Association. And the plan is that the oversight of the cemeteries will fall to the cemetery committee that operates inside the town of Kent. That letter is dated September 1st. And we will get that out to our membership.
Alrighty.
I don't know if anybody has any questions.
what time frame are we thinking here? I mean, so we'll have another special meeting. We'll talk about this. It'll go to town. So this is something, Tammy, you would like to do pretty quickly.
Pretty quickly. My suggestion is we already have 5 burials on the books right now that Bill and I are, we're going to make sure that those burials get done. We'll probably end up doing them ourselves. And therefore, September and October. Most cemeteries in the area close from December 1st to April 1st. We have never done that because we've always felt that if we can get into the cemeteries, we don't plow the cemeteries, but if the cemeteries were open enough, we would try to bury because we felt we owed it to the families. My suggestion is going to be that the town closes the cemeteries this year from December 1st to April 1st. And that way the town has time, with the committee's help, to advertise for a sexton, to interview and to have people in place. And of course, we also have all the records that need to be, gone over and categorized. And burying people is, of course, the most important thing. However, the true value of the Cemetery Association and now the committee is the historic record that we maintain. So it's going to take some time to put all that together.
Okay, thank you.
And as long as you're not burying people, you're going to have, 5 months to do it.
Thanks, Tammy.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
thank you for your collective 60 years of
Yeah.
public service. I don't usually do that
Just-
monkey math, but this seems fair.
Yeah. Bill just turned 75.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
Yeah.
More birdhouses, right? More birdhouses.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tammy.
All right.
you.
I'm going to leave now.
Alrighty. We don't blame you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next, 8.7 Swift House Needs Assessment Architect Approval. So we have not ever made a motion to accept the recommendation and of the task force and move towards, move to enter into a contract with their recommended vendors. So we need to do that tonight so we can move forward. And
Who is their recommended
so
architect?
they're recommending Silver Petroselli and Associates, which the proposals in your
That proposal didn't include a number.
it does. It's on page 40 of 46 and is $13,900.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, it's very way,
13,000.
way down at the back.
900. I just looked at their hourly rates per individual and thought, wow. I should have been in that business.
Yep, you're right. It's page 40, 13,900.
Yeah. And
Okay.
the other one is, it was more than
24,000.
that. Yeah, it was significantly more. And that, that's in the current budget. I think we budgeted 15,000 for that. So if we want to entertain a motion that looks something like we accept the to accept the recommendation of the Swift House Task Force and enter into an a contract with Silver Petroselli and Associates based on their proposal to conduct a needs assessment for no more than $15,000, I would entertain that.
Second.
Were you making that motion, Glenn?
Oh, he
I'm-
seconded it.
You can say so moved, just say so moved, Denny.
So moved, sorry,
All
so
good.
moved, so moved.
And I'll second it.
I'm hoping they'll
Any-
do it for that because the proposal has been out there for quite a while now and no one's been in touch with them since they offered their services.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I put up to 15,000.
Okay.
So what's the next step, Gene? You'll reach out to them?
Yep.
I
Of
would.
course, we have to
I'd like
vote on
for-
it.
Yeah,
Okay, just to.
I'm kidding. Yes, I would need to reach out to them.
I would like very much to be a part of that conversation when you talk to them, Jane.
Okay. All right, are we ready to try your minds and have a vote?
Yes.
All those in favor of the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. Selectmen reports. I just have a couple of quick things. The opioid settlement money that our town and many other, pretty much every town in the state or most towns in the state have received. We've been back and forth with the COG, discussing with the other CEOs, and there's a number of us that wanted to pool those resources, which I discussed with you all many months ago. And so right now we just had a kickoff meeting 2 weeks ago, and then another meeting Monday of the Regional Opioid Response Fund Committee. And I believe it's 9 towns right now, but there are other towns that are going to be pooling their money in this one pot. And we discussed a number of different initiatives, and there's a lot of substance use providers. There are mental health providers. Greenwoods is on the committee. The opioid, Litchfield County Opioid Task Force. There's a lot of, it's a really wide stakeholder group. And so one of the things that we discussed was trying to use some of this funding to destigmatize the concept of the opioid epidemic, substance use disorder. So we'll be working with somebody, a vendor likely, to put on. What we want to do is have focus group, roundtable type of interaction with the public to educate the public and to help everybody understand that, this is not, having substance use disorder is not a character flaw. You're not a criminal. There's still a lot of stigma, negative stigma that surrounds this issue. And so there was big agreement that some of the funds should be spent on that. Some of the funds, I believe, are going to be spent on harm reduction supplies. So there's a big movement in lots of states to provide harm reduction. So people with substance use disorder are ready when they're ready. And there is proven scientific public health data that shows if you provide people with harm reduction supplies, clean needles, fentanyl test strips, that this will help them at least stay safe until they're ready. And so that was another one. And there's a couple of other initiatives that we're looking at. So just wanted to bring you up to speed on that. And I'm sure I have plenty of other things. Yes.
Question.
Yeah.
Regional opioid, is the region Litchfield County, or is it not county specific?
Yeah, it's not county specific because the 8 counties in the state are almost meaningless other than a geographical set of geographical boundaries. So this is based on the 21, I think it's 21 towns in the COG. So as we would meet each month, this was a conversation that came up. Hey, we're getting, everybody's getting this money. Does it make sense for each of us to spend our money, towns right next to each other, maybe spending it on the same thing, or should we pool it within any of the COG towns? And so it's voluntary, but whoever's participating in what we call the RORF we'll be pulling that funding to hopefully make a bigger impact and make a broader impact rather than us do one town, us do this in our town, Cornwall does it, maybe the same stuff, because it's very specific what that settlement money can be spent on. You can't just spend it on anything. There's very, very limited specific criteria of what it can be spent on.
So are the other, whatever there are,
I think 9 towns are
the other
participating
12
in this.
towns thinking about joining it, or you don't know?
Because it was voluntary, the COG agreed that it should be voluntary. If towns want to join in, they can join in. If they didn't want to join in, so every town obviously didn't get the same amount of money, and some towns got a lot more, but some towns got way less even than Kent did. So it, the COG as a whole felt it made more sense to, pool our money together where possible and, come at it from a regional approach, but again, voluntary.
No, I like the regional approach, so.
Yeah. So working on a number of those initiatives moving forward. I think I mentioned that we did the active shooter training over in Warren, and Kent actually had the largest showing, which bravo to us. We had, I think, 14 people there. And I think the second week in September, I have to just shore up the supplies that we need. We're going to do what's called a stop the bleed training, which is how to just do bleeding control and use of a tourniquet. And then we'll do hopefully in the 4 or 5 weeks after that, we'll get the state police to come back and do a specific training for our town hall, the physical space. And then hopefully before I walk out the door, we'll do a tabletop exercise to take all of these different trainings and apply it to a small scenario where we all sit down in the meeting room and talk about how would, based on this scenario, how would we respond and where are the pinch points and, where do we need to improve, things like that. But taking the training that we get and applying it to a scenario.
I'll say, Gene, that was very effective. That was a very effective presentation, and I'm glad that so many town of Kent folks went there. It was just nice to also be out of Kent and go somewhere else. No, I mean,
Yeah.
it was nice to see the Warren
You're
Town
right.
Hall, to talk to the Warren folks, municipality there, and Washington. I mean, it was just nice to just see another town hall and to talk to people and interact. So that was really that was a good day.
Yeah, and the feedback that I got from everybody was very positive. So it was a good thing. I have nothing further, I don't think. Rufus or Glenn for reports.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Alrighty, one more round of public comment. Don't see any hands. Oh, Lynn, you've got your hands up. Oh, Rick, you've got your hand up too. I'm gonna go, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go with Rick.
Yep.
Go ahead.
But no, Lynn can go.
Okay, Lynn, go for it.
That's fine, Rick. You can go first.
I just wanted to, as the transfer station director, comment on the program up there, the food scrap program. People are doing pretty well. We're picking up around 1,000 pounds a week at least, which I'm sure will slow down a little bit after Labor Day. And I'd also like to take a minute to thank Joyce for giving up a whole month of weekends to sell the permits up there, and Tiffany and Rihanna and John from Waste Zero or Zero Waste, I always get it mixed up, for helping out with the launch up there and getting everybody permitted and all the supplies handed out.
Yeah, it's definitely been a big effort to get this to happen in a short amount of time.
I'll also thank Joyce as well. It was good chatting with her at the transfer station. I usually see Rick, but thank you, Joyce, for helping out with that program.
Rick, before Lynn takes over, just one thing I noticed today when I drove through Macedonia State Park was that the 25-mile-an-hour sign is a little hard to see. If you had somebody with some pruning to cut back. the
Like you
bridge.
saw, 'cause I drove through the park today and didn't see it, but it must be down on the paved part, right? It's not up in the park, right?
Yeah, no, it's not in the park. It's down at the sort of the beginning of Macedonia.
Yep.
Because I'm going, I don't think I saw a speed limit sign anywhere today.
Right. All right, we'll take care of that.
So,
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Rick. Go for it, Lynn.
Thanks. That's awesome to hear that 1,000 pounds of organics are being collected.
It's a lot.
Yeah. I had a couple questions. And I don't need an answer tonight. I'm just asking you guys to do some research. How much additional money is available in the TAP grant based on the current estimates to fund that additional work that you guys just approved, the design work? That would be good to know. And the other question I had is, did any of the selectmen ask Rick or Jared if they have any concerns or in favor of letting go of this land for the Kent affordable housing? Did that conversation happen? Because I didn't really hear it happen here in these meetings.
Yeah, I believe, and I think it's in Justin's letter, Kent Affordable Housing met with both Jared and Rick.
I know, but did you
Site
guys talk to the town employees?
I spoke to them because I see them every day.
I've spoken to Rick about this. I was at the transfer station and at the garage, so we've chatted.
And I guess the next question is, did they raise any concerns? Because you guys haven't talked about any concerns.
No.
I said what I said in the meeting today, that I really don't want this 2-acre parcel to take over any land that Rick has down there. That there's not a whole lot of space down there, and whatever plan that goes forward doesn't take over the salt shed or any other sheds down there. So that's very important.
Okay.
Right, Rick?
Thanks.
Thanks, Lynn. Scanning for more hands. I don't see any more hands. So according to Apple, it is 5:55, and I will make a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Thank you, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks.